Hello everyone, my name is Tunde Victor. In today's video, I'm going to be retouching this beauty headshot from start to finish, and also I'll be explaining everything you need to know and what to do when you are retouching a beauty headshot like this. So the first I'm going to do, I'm going to be processing this raw image with the Capture One software, and if you don't have the Capture One software, I'll be leaving the link in the description below, so go and check out that link and download the Capture One software. And if you want to learn how to install the Capture One software, I have a video for that. I'll be leaving a link to that video as well in the description below, so go watch that video and install the Capture One software. So let's get started. So this is my Capture One interface. The first thing I'll do when I'm in Capture One like this, I'll first of all check if my image is sharp. As you can see, this image is really sharp. So before you edit your image, make sure you check if it's sharp. So this image was shot by my friend. His name is Kelly, and I'll be leaving the link to his Instagram in the description below. He shot this image with a Nikon Z5, and the ISO is on 200. Shutter speed is on 1/100, and the aperture is 5.8. So the first thing I'm going to do for this image, I'll come to my exposure tab right here in Capture One, and I'll just scroll all the way down to my high dynamic range, and then I'll just open up the shadow a little bit like this. After that, I'll bring my whites up like this, and I'll come to my blacks. I'll bring my black down like this a little bit. Then I'll come to my highlights. I'll reduce my highlights like this. So let's see our before and after. So these are before and these are after. I'm not done yet. I feel the image is too bright, so I'm just going to take down my shadows a little bit like this. I'll bring it all the way down like this a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do, I'll come to my levels. I'll just push down my highlight sliders inside like this, and for my shadows slider, I'll just push it inside like this to about radius of about 4 to add a little bit of contrast to the image. So let's see the before and after. These are before and these are after. So the next I'm going to do, I'm going to crop this image, and I'll just come to my crop tool up here. I'll click on it, and since I'm posting for Instagram, I'll make sure my crop ratio is on 4:5, because 4:5 works best for Instagram. So if you're posting a portrait on Instagram, make sure your crop ratio is set to 4:5, and just crop your image like this. So I'm going to crop this image like this and get the frame right. But if you are in a situation where you can't crop your image 4:5 and get the frame right in Capture One, you can always crop your image in Photoshop. So I just click on enter like this. This is all I'm going to be doing in Capture One for this particular image right here. Right now, I want to open this image in Photoshop. I'll just come to this image right here, right click on it, and click on edit with Adobe Photoshop. I'm using Adobe Photoshop 2019. So next thing you're going to see this tab here like this. Just leave it on default. But if yours is not like this, make sure you set your format to TIFF. Your option is set to uncompressed. Make sure your ICC profile is on Adobe RGB, and you can either use 16-bit or 8-bit. So if you have a faster system, I'll advise you use 16-bit. But since my laptop is not so fast, so I'll be using 8-bit to edit this image. But if you have a good system, I'll advise you use 16-bit. So after getting my settings right like this, I'll just click on edit variants, and this image is going to export to Photoshop. Now that we have our image in Photoshop, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the blemishes from this image. And to do that, I'll first of all duplicate my layer by clicking on Ctrl J. You can see I have 2 layers right here, or you can just drag this background layer and put it on this new layer icon right here to duplicate your layer. So to remove the blemishes, I'll just create a new empty layer. So I'll come down to my new layer and just click on it, and you can see I've created a new empty layer. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to rename this layer blemishes, so you can understand better. So after that, let me just zoom in. So you can use either your spot healing brush tool, your close stamp tool, or your healing brush tool. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be using close stamp tool and healing brush tool, not sports healing brush tool. I'm going to be using healing brush tool because it's more better than sports healing brush tool. And the reason why I'm using the healing brush tool and not the sports healing brush tool is because this sports healing brush tool is automatic. Photoshop automatically remove the blemishes for you, but this spot healing brush tool, it gives you more control because you'll be precise on which blemishes you want to remove and how you want the blemishes to be removed. So you have more control with the healing brush tool. So I just click on my healing brush tool, which is this second one right here, and click on it, and I'll just zoom in and make sure your brush hardness is set to 100. So if yours is not set to 100, just come here, click on this triangle right here and set it to 100 and click on enter. Make sure your sample is on current and below. So if your sample right here is on current, change it to current and below and click on enter. So right now I'm just going to sample from a close by area from here like this, close to the blemishes which I want to remove. I just hold alternate to sample and just paint over the blemishes like this. You can see it's so accurate, you won't even think there was anything there before. But if I was to use the spot healing brush tool and just brush like this, you can see it's leaving some mark right there. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see it's leaving some mark right there. You can see some patches right there, so it's not looking realistic. So I'll just switch back to my healing brush tool. And remember, if you are removing blemishes, you don't have to zoom all the way in like this to remove blemishes. You can just zoom a little bit like this so you can get more view of what you are working on and how the image looks after you remove the blemishes. So I'm just going to be sampling and brushing over the blemishes. Hold alternate, sample from a close by area and brush. Hold alternate, sample from a close by area and brush like that. Hold alternate, sample from a close by area and brush. Make sure you take your time to do this, because this is key when you are retouching a beauty shot like this. Make sure you take your time to remove all the blemishes. And you can see I try to remove these blemishes right here and it distorts the image. So I'm just going to undo that. And to undo, all you have to do is click on Ctrl Z, or you come to your history tab right here and just undo like that. So since I'm not getting this place right, I'll switch to my close stamp tool. Make sure I'm on current and below as well. So I'll just sample from a close by area and just paint like this. You can see how wonderful that is. So I'll be switching between my close stamp tool and my healing brush tool to remove the blemishes from this image. I usually use the close stamp tool for edges like this. So if you are working on the edges like this, make sure you are using the close stamp tool. It works better on the edge. And make sure to increase and decrease your brush size according to the place you are working on. So let me just remove the major part of this image. So I'll switch back to my healing brush tool with J. So you can click on J or your keyboard to switch back to your healing brush tool, or you can come here and just switch to your healing brush tool, whichever works for you. So I'll sample from a close by area again and just paint over like that. Sample and paint. So I'll be doing this for the whole of this image, and I'll be switching between my close stamp tool and my healing brush tool. Okay guys, but I'm done now. So just make sure you take your time to do it. Now let's see our before and after. So this is how it was before. Let me just zoom in so you can see, and this is how it is right now. So just take your time to get rid of the blemishes. And I use the close stamp tool, and majorly I use the healing brush tool to do this. So right now, the next thing I'm going to do for this image, I'm going to be using corrective dodge and burn to even out the colors on the skin. And to do that, I'll just come to my Retouching Academy and click on my dodge and burn curves. And if you don't have this Retouching Academy, send me an email. I'll be sending the link where you can download this Retouching Academy. And also, if you want to learn how to create your own dodge and burn action, I have a video for that, and I'll be leaving a link to that video in the description below. So after running my dodge and burn action, I'll just come to my visual aid and I'll come to my curves. I'll just add a little bit of contrast to this curves right here so I can see where to dodge and where to burn. Remember, this is corrective dodge and burn. This is not contour dodge and burn. What I want to do right now, I just want to make the darker part of the skin a little bit brighter and make the brighter part of the skin a little bit darker, and just to even out the colors. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and you're going to see the difference after I finish doing it. So I'll turn back my visual aid on, and I'll come to my dodge and burn group right here. So the first thing I'll do, I'll come to my dodge, pick my normal brush tool, reduce my flow to 4, and you can see this part of the nose right here. Let me just create a new layer to explain this. You can see this part of the nose right here. It looks darker than this other parts, this part right here. And also you can see this part right here, they look darker than these parts right here. They are not looking even. And also this part right here look darker than this part right here. So I just want to make the skin to look even. And also if you see here, this part look darker than this part right here. So I just want to make it look even. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm just going to delete this layer, come back to my dodge, pick my normal brush tool, bring my flow to 4, and make sure my foreground color is on white. If your foreground color is not on white, just click on this icon right here to toggle between white and black. And if it sets to other color, just click on this black and white icon right here to set this to default. So since my mask is on black, I'm going to be using a white brush. So make sure your foreground color is on white. So I'll just zoom in a little bit and just increase my brush size and paint on the place which I want to brighten a little bit to make the skin look even. So this corrective dodge and burn takes a lot of time. Like, it takes a whole lot of time. You can take about 30 or 20 minutes to do this, but it gives the best results when you are retouching an image. But if you want to just quickly edit an image, you don't have to do this step. Just skip it and just go straight to focus separation. But if you want to get a better result on your image, just take your time to do this step, and you're going to get a better result and a good image. You are going to see the difference on your image. So I'm just going to take my time to do this and show you the results. And I hope next time, if you want to retouch your beauty headshot like this, I advise you just take your time, do this method, and you're going to see massive difference on your image. So let me just quickly run this and show you the before and after, and I'll take my time to do it. So let me just quickly show you what I just did. This is the before and this is the after. Let me turn this one off. Let me turn the black and white off so you can see. This is how the image was before. You can see these parts are looking dark, 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 and this is the after. They are becoming even. So I'm just going to do this for the whole of the image. Okay guys, let's see our before and after. Let me just zoom in. This is how the image was before our corrective dodge and burn, and this is how it is after our corrective dodge and burn. See the before and see the after. You can see the difference. You can see how the transition of the skin is right now. It's looking all smooth, like the colors are even right now. Just see the before and after. Let me zoom in. Before and after. So that's the effect of corrective dodge and burn. And like I said, just take your time to do this step. Don't rush it. Just take your time to do it to even out the skin. So after that, I'll just delete this visual aid right now. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be doing my focus separation for this image. Now looking at the image, you can see how sharp the image is, and you can see the textures are all there. To retain those textures, I'm going to be using a higher blur radius. If I want the image to look all smooth or all flat, I'm going to be going for a smaller blur radius. But if you want to still get a smoother image and have a lot of texture on your image, those natural textures, all you have to do is use a higher blur radius. So I'll just come to my focus separation on my Retouching Academy, or you can use any focus separation action you have. So I'm going to be using focus separation via Gaussian blur. It's going to open this Gaussian blur radius for me. So I'm going to be using a higher radius of, I think I'll be using 7 for this image, because the image naturally has a lot of textures. So I'll be using 7 for this image. I'm going to click on OK. This first one right here, it's my corrective to where all my texture is. why this low frequency right here is where all my color is right here. If I'm using this Retouching Academy frequency separation, I'm going to be brushing on this corrective tone right here. And to do that, I'll just come to my mixer brush, come to my brush tool, come to mixer brush, make sure I'm on clean brush, make sure my I'm on custom, make sure my wet is on 40, my load is on 30, my mix is on 20, and my flow is on 30, and sample or layer is checked. Since I've already removed the blemishes on this image, I'm just going to be brushing right now. But if I've not removed the blemishes before, or I'm still seeing a little bit of blemishes on the skin, I'll just come to my high texture copy right here, this first one right here, click on my S on my close stamp tool, change my sample to current layer. Remember, we changed it to current and below before when we started, but right now you can change it to current layer, because if it's on current and below and I just sample and brush like this, you can see what's happening to the image. The image is not looking good, so make sure you change it to current layer. So let's say I'm seeing some blemishes and I want to remove, like here, so I just click on my close stamp tool, hold alternate to sample, and just brush over the blemishes on my high frequency texture layer. So I'll come back to my corrective tool because I want to soften the skin, so I'll just click on my mixer brush, then turn off this high texture right here. So once I click on this icon right here, this high texture is going to turn off and the image is going to look kind of blurry. So once it's kind of blurry like this, I'll just use my mixer brush to brush on the skin right now. And remember, brush according to the way the texture is on the image. For this image, this texture is moving to this direction. Let me just explain this. For this image, this texture is moving to this direction, like this. So I'm just going to brush this part like this, and once I come to this part, I'll brush this other part like this, so you can see how the texture is moving like this. So that's how I'm going to be brushing. And once I come here, I'm going to brush here like this, and for this side I'm going to brush it like this, and I'm going to push this side down like this. So just brush according to the textures on the model skin and according to the shape of the model skin. So with that being said, I'll come back to my mixer brush. So if you're using this Retouching Academy frequency separation, before you start using a mixer brush, make sure your high frequency texture is turned off. So just click on this icon right here to turn it off. If you did not turn it off and you just brush like this, you can see what's happening to the image. The image is not looking good. Just look, it's adding texture to the image that is not looking good. So let me just undo that. Make sure your high texture is turned off. So once it's turned off, I'll pick my mixer brush and just brush according to the shape of the model, like this. And you don't have to zoom all in like this to brush. Make sure you zoom to the minimum where you can see what you are doing, where your image is clearly visible. So I'll continue brushing like this. Remember as well, take your time to do this, don't rush it. So just take your time to retouch your image. Don't try and rush your image when retouching it, and increase and decrease your brush size according to the place you want to work on. And to increase and decrease your brush size, just click on the square bracket key on your keyboard to increase and decrease like that. And also remember to brush your shadow separately and brush the highlight separately. So this is my highlight, I'm brushing it separately, and these are my shadows area, I'm brushing it separately. I'm not just going to brush my highlight into my shadows or my shadows into my highlight. If I do that, it's going to make the image look flat and not make the image look good. It's just going to spoil the shape on the model's face, because the highlights and shadows are what makes up the image. So I'm just going to do this for the whole of this image like this, brushing the highlight separately and brushing the shadow separately, and brushing according to the shape of the model skin and according to the direction of the textures. If I want to brush on this nose, I'll just decrease the size of my brush, make sure it's on the highlights, I'll brush it separately, the highlight separately, and I'll come to the shadows, I'll brush it separately. And this transition, I'm just going to brush the transition like this, inside like this once, like that. So I'm just going to do this for the whole of the image. I hope you understand. Okay, let's see before and after. Okay, these are before and these are after. These are before and these are after. You can see just a subtle difference, but the image is still looking good. I feel I missed this place right here, so I'm just going to brush this part right here because I feel I did not brush it before. Okay, now you can see how good this image is. The image is looking smooth and we still have our texture. This is the before and this is the after. And I want to remove a little bit of blemishes. I'm seeing some right here, so I'll come back to my high texture copy, pick my close stamp tool, sample and paint over like this to remove those blemishes. So the next thing I'm going to do right now, I'm going to be doing my contouring, dodging and burning. And to do that, I'll come back to my Retouching Academy again, click on my dodge and burn curves again. So I'll just zoom in a little bit. Right now, next thing I'm going to do, I'll come to my focus separation, I'll turn it off so I can see what the image looks originally before I start my dodging and burning. Let me just create a new empty layer to explain some things. So I'll just create a new empty layer, pick my normal brush tool, and I'm simply going to be making the highlights a bit brighter like this. I'm going to be brightening the highlights and I'm going to be darkening the shadow. So that's what contouring, dodging and burning simply means. It means darkening the shadow and brightening the highlights. So just enhance the shadows and enhance the highlights a little bit. So I'll just delete that. So these are my highlights. I'll come to my dodge and burn. First of all, I'll come to my dodge, pick my normal brush tool, decrease my flow to 5%, increase the size of my brush and just dodge the highlights like this to make it look a bit brighter. So for this image, anywhere I see any highlights, I'm going to just brush on it a little bit. That's why I turn off my focus separation to see how the image looks originally. You can also decide to turn off your visual aid if you want to, but I just prefer leaving mine on so I can see the highlight and the shadows more clearly. So I'll continue dodging the highlights. So this part are highlights, so I'll just dodge anywhere I see highlights on the image. I'll do the same for the nose right here. Remember to always increase and decrease your brush size according to the place you are working on. So I'll just dodge here a little bit like this. There are highlights there. And for the lips as well, I'll dodge the lips a little bit just to add some shine to the lips so that the lips can look shiny. So I'll just dodge it a little bit. I'll dodge the jaw as well like this. I'll dodge this neck right here because I'm seeing some highlights here. And I'll dodge here as well just to add a little bit of shine to this part. I'll dodge here as well. I'll dodge here as well. I'll dodge here as well. And I think that's off my dodge. And I'll come to my burn. I'll click on burn. I'll burn this side of our face like this, just to add more dimension to the image. So I'll burn this other part of our face like this. I'll burn the side of our nose like this to give it shape. And I'll burn the forehead like this part here, right here like this. And I'll burn this other side like this, and I'll just burn a little bit of above the head like this. Okay, now let's see our before and after. Let me just turn on my focus separation back on. So let me delete my visual aid right now. Now let's see our before and after. These are before dodge and burn, and these are after dodge and burn. You can see that added that 3D dimension to the image. And if you feel it's too much, all you have to do is come to your dodge, come to your properties. Under your properties, you will see feather. Just feather it a little bit, and do the same for your burn. Feather it a little bit like this, and now you can see how good it is. Look at the before and look at the after. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it to be too much. If it's too much, the image will not be looking good. So the next step is to make the eyes pop. So to do that, I'm just going to whiten the eyes and brighten it a little bit to make it pop. I already have an action which I use to brighten my eyes and teeth. Since this is the full retouching class, I'm just going to show you how I create that action again. So the first thing I'll do, I'll come to my curves, just add a little bit of brightness to the curves like this. So just click and drag it up like this to add brightness. And after that, I'll come back to my adjustment layer. I'll come to my vibrance and just reduce the saturation of the vibrance like this to about 70. 70 is okay. And I come back to my adjustment layer again and come to my photo filter. I'll click on this filters right here and I'll click on Coolie 80. So once I click on Coolie 80, I'll just reduce the density to about 7 or 6. I feel 7 is okay, so I'll leave it on 7. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to group my photo filter, my vibrance, and my curves. To do that, once my photo filter is selected, I hold Ctrl, click on vibrance, and click on curves. So once the 3 adjustment layers are selected, I just click on Ctrl G to group them. So after grouping them, I'll just create a layer mask, and I'll just invert this layer mask by clicking on Ctrl I to invert. So next I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, pick my normal brush tool, make sure my foreground color is on white because my mask is on black, white reveals and black hide. So to reveal those adjustments, I just switch to my white brush, bring my flow back to 100 and just paint on the white part of the eyes alone, only the white part of the eyes like this. And if this image has teeth, I would have done the same thing for the teeth, but since there's no teeth on this image, I'm just going to leave it like that. You can also use this method to whiten the teeth. So after that, I'll just come to my filter, I'll come to my blur, I'll come to my Gaussian blur. So I'm just going to blur it with a radius of about 2 and I'll click on OK. And I can decide to reduce the opacity if I want, because I like my image to look all natural. So I'm just going to reduce the opacity to about 70 to make it look natural. I don't want it to be too white because it's going to look fake. So the next thing I'm going to do after I whiten the eyes and teeth, I want to make this catch light on the eyes a little bit brighter. So I'll just come to my adjustment layer again, click on my brightness and just increase the brightness like this and increase the contrast like this, and just invert this layer mask by clicking on Ctrl I and pick my normal brush tool again, make sure my flow is on 100 and just paint only on the catch light, not paint on the black spot on the eyes, paint only on the catch light. Now you can see the before and the after. You can see the eyes are poppy right now. So I'm just going to group the eyes whitening and this brightness I just did in a group so you can see the before and after. So this is the before and this is the after. So right now I'm going to be color grading this image. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'll first of all add contrast to this image. So I'll come to my black and white adjustment layer. Then I'll double click on this empty space right here. It's going to open this layer style for me. Or just guys click on this place right here and just click on blending option. And layer style is going to open up for me again. So right now I'm just going to change the blend modes to soft light. And I want to take this effect from the dark areas and just apply it only on the bright areas. So I'm just going to move this triangle slider to the bright side, and you can see it's not looking good. And to make it look even, I'll just hold alternate, click on it to split it. So once I split it, I'll just shift this side to the highlight like this, and I'll click on OK. So you can see before and after. I've added a little bit of contrast to this image. So next thing I'm going to do, color grading is optional. There's no particular way to color grade an image, but I already know what I want for this image. I want to make this image look as natural as possible. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to color grade the shadows area and the highlights area first of all. I'll come to my color balance on my adjustment layer. So I have my adjustment layer right here, but if yours is not here, just come down here, click on color balance adjustment layer. So just look for color balance right here. So I'll click on it and I'll change the blend modes to color. So once blend modes are color, I'll come to my shadows. I want to add a little bit of blues to the shadows. I already know what I want, so if you're color grading, just know what you want and do it like that. So since I already know what I want, I'm just going to color grade this image like that. I'm going to add blues to the shadows. So I just push my sliders to the blue side a little bit like this to about 3. And also I'll push my sliders for the cyans and the reds to the cyan side like this a little bit. And I'll come back to my adjustment layer again, create another color balance adjustment layer, change the blend modes to color, and for my highlights I want to add a little bit of reds to the highlights. So I'll just push my sliders to my red side like this a little bit, and also push my sliders to my yellow side a little bit like this. So next thing I'm going to do, I'll come to my adjustment layer again, I'll click on my selective color right here, and since skin 2 consists of just red and yellow, I'm going to be pushing my red and yellow sliders. So for the reds, I'm just going to add a little bit of blacks and take a little bit of yellows away from the reds like this, and add a little bit of reds also to the reds, because the opposite of cyans are reds. So if I take my sliders of my cyan to the opposite side, I'm adding reds to the image. So I think -12 is okay, and I'll just leave my magenta like that. So I'll come to my yellows. For the blacks, my yellows, I'll take a little bit of blacks away from the yellows, and I'll take a little bit of yellows away from the yellows, and I'll just add a little bit of cyans to the yellows as well. And let me play with my magenta slider and see what's going to happen. And for my magenta, I think I'll just minus magenta a little bit to -2. Okay, I'm liking this image like this. So next thing I'm going to do, I'll come to my hue and saturation adjustment layer. I'll just come to the reds and just reduce the saturation of the reds a little bit, and just bring the hue to about +1. And I'll come to my yellows. I think I'm just going to leave my yellows like that. So next I'm going to do, I want to make this image look a little bit dark. So I'll come to my adjustment layer again, click on my black and white adjustment layer. This time I'll change my blend mode to multiply. So once my blend mode is on multiply, I'll just double click on it, and it's going to come to my layer style again, and I'll just remove it from the dark side. Hold alternate to split this angle, just move one part of it like this to this side like this, and you can see our before and our after is looking a little bit dark like this. The next thing I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to group everything I just did. I'll click on this first black and white adjustment layer, I'll hold shift, and I'll click on this last adjustment which I did, and click on Ctrl G to group. Now let's see our before and after. These are before. You can see how yellow the image is, but I don't want that skin tone, so I just adjust it a little bit, and you can see how it is right now. But I feel it's too dark, so I'm just going to use my curves to add a little bit of brightness. So I'll come to my curves adjustment layer, and under my presets, I'll just click on lighter RGB, and I'll add a little bit of brightness to the image like this. So let's see our before and our after, but I still feel the image is looking too red. So I'm just going to come back to my hue and saturation, click on my hue and saturation again, back to my reds, and just decrease saturation of the reds a little bit like this to reduce the lightness a bit like this. So next thing I'm going to do, I come back to this group right here which I have my color grading, and just reduce the opacity, the overall opacity of the group like this, to bring back a little bit of the original colors on the image. And also I feel it's too bright, I'll come back to my curves and just reduce the opacity of the curves a little bit like this. And I'm just going to group everything. Let's see the before and after. So this is our before color grading, and this is after our color grading. Like I said, color grading is optional, so just take your time to color grade your image the way you want it. After color grading my image, I'm just going to create a stamp visible layer by clicking on Ctrl Shift alternate E. And as you can see, it has created a stamp visible layer for me. And right now what I'm going to do, I'll come back to my filter, I'll come to my camera raw filter, just do my basic adjustment again. I'll just reduce my highlights a little bit, and just open up my shadows, bring down my blacks, just add a little bit of contrast to the image. So after that, I'll come to my HLT adjustment, and I'll just come to my saturation, and for the oranges, I'll just add a little bit of saturation to the oranges For the reds, add a little bit of saturation to the reds like this. And let me work with the aqua and see if there's any effect. No effect. Let me see it for the purple. No effect. So just play with your sliders and see, and just do what you want. I think I'm just going to reduce the magenta a little bit. And for the hue, for the reds, let me just increase the hue on the reds a little bit. Let's see what happens. Nothing. So for the oranges, the skin tone consists of mostly oranges. So let me just play with the hue. So I'll move the hue to the red side a bit like this for the oranges. And you can see what's happened to the image. And I think I like it like this. And I'll just click on OK. Now let's see before our camera filter, and this is after our camera filter. You can see how good this image is right now. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to resize this image by clicking on Ctrl Alternate I to resize this image, or just come to image and comes to image size, and I'm going to resize my image to 9, and I'll click on OK. After resizing my image, I'm just going to add digital nuance to this image to enhance the texture a little bit. And to do that, I'll just create a new empty layer. I'll come to my edit, I'll come to my fill, and I'll fill with 50% gray, and I'll click on OK. This is my 50% gray. So next thing I'm going to do, I'll come to my filter, I'll come to noise, and I'll come to add noise. So I'm just going to add 9. I think 9 is my sweet spot. Make sure your Gaussian is checked, not uniform. Make sure Gaussian is ticked, and I'm going to be using 9 because I like using 9. I can also reduce the opacity later if I want, and I'm just going to click on OK. So after that, I'm just going to change my blend mode to soft light. And if you look at the background, you can see the textures in the background. This is the before and this is the after. Let me zoom out. This is the before and this is the after. So right now I'm just going to reduce the opacity because I feel it's too much, so I'm just going to reduce it to about 50. I add noise to all my image, so any image you see me edit, I add noise to it. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add sharpness to this image. So I just come to my Retouching Academy again and click on sharpness. You can see how sharp this image is, but I don't want it to be in the whole image. I want it to be only on the eyes. So I'm just going to invert it, invert my mask, pick my normal brush tool, increase the size of my brush, make sure my foreground color is on white, and just paint only on the eyes because that's where I want to sharp for this image. Because this image looks sharp already, I'm not going to be sharpening only the eyes. And right now I'm just going to reduce the flow and do the same thing for the lips like this, and I just reduce the opacity a little bit. So let's see the before and after. This is the before and this is the after. It makes the eyes pop a bit more. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to save this image. So I'll just come to my file, I'll click on export, and I'll click on save for web. And your quality can be on 75 or 80. I prefer using 75. And make sure your optimize is checked, your enable color profile is checked. And once you get your settings right like this, just click on save and choose which folder you want to save it, and just save like that. So let's see our before and after. This is where we started from, and this is where we are right now. So this is where we started from, and this is the final image. If you listen for this video, like this video so that more people can see this video and learn from this video as well. I'll see you guys in my next video. Stay creative.